Right, guys, I'm back. We're doing a Chelsea ranking video today. I'm going to go through a list of the Chelsea players this season. We've gone through a lot of them. And yeah, I'm going to give everyone a ranking of what I think their performances have been this season. There's a lot of players on this list that might have only played a handful of games due to injuries. We've had bare injuries this year as Chelsea Football Club. And yeah, we've ran through a lot of players. I've got 27 players on my list. That's how many players we've kind of really used this season. 27 players. That's a whole heap of players. But yeah, I'm going to be ranking them in categories. I'm going to have categories on the right-hand side. You're going to see them. I'm going to put them up there. World class, top class, average, below standards, and shocking. But yeah, let's go through it. We'll start off in goal. We'll start off with Kepa. Kepa's played the majority of the games, I'd say, this season. He's overachieved in terms of what we expected from him last year. He hasn't really made many mistakes. I think he's made one mistake at Fulham recently. I thought he was taking a turn for the standards of what people thought of him from last year. Obviously, makes mistakes here and there. People have been a bit fed up with Kepa. I kind of backed Kepa when he first came in because I could see the ability and how quick he was on his feet and just his distribution in general. Obviously, early on, he used to give the ball away from his feet, but it's cleaned up a lot better this season. And the way Graham Potter wants to play, I think he's been all right. I give him a 7 out of 10. But for me, I can't put him in that top class category. I've got to put him in the average category. I'll put him in the 3. And that's where we have Kepa. Moving on to Mendy. Hasn't featured too much this season. The way Graham Potter plays, I don't think it's necessarily the way he wants to go forward in terms of playing at the back. I'll give him about a 6 out of 10 this season. I'll put him in the average category as well. I think we need an upgrade on the keeper. I think we need a top class keeper coming into the back end of the season to try and give us a chance of pushing up to the top 4 challenge. But Mendy, yeah, 6 out of 10 in category 3. Badiashile. We're going to Badiashile, one of our new signings in the January transfer window. Played a couple of games. And for me, he has been exceptional since he's been in. I think alongside Thiago Silva, it'll be a great partnership this season. For the couple of games that I've seen Badiashile play, and he's been spoke about before we signed him, and I think he's a player. To me, I thought this guy looks like a kind of bozo player. He just looks like he's got full of mistakes, but totally took me by surprise. His feet, his composure, passing in between the lines, he can hit a diag. For me, 7.5 out of 10, I'd say, in the 2 games I've seen him play, and yeah, I'll put him in the top class category. I think he can go on to be a top class defender. And I think Chelsea is the club that will be able to give him that standpoint going here forward. Maybe to be able to link to bigger clubs in the future, or hopefully stay at Chelsea and perform like he has in his last couple of games. But yeah, that's Badiashile for me, 7.5. And I'd say top class. Moving on, we'll go beside him for his partnership, his centre-half partnership. Rolls Royce. Thiago Silva. What can we say about Thiago Silva? For me, this season and in general for Chelsea Football Club, I've got to put him up there in the 9.5, 9 out of 10 category. He has been, at his age, the expectation for the decline at his age as a centre-half would have been astronomically worse than what he's given us this season and prior. He has been Chelsea's #1 defender for a couple of years, and I don't know where we would be without him. I got to give him a 9.5 out of 10. He's been the best centre-half, I think, in the league this year. And he is one of the very few players, I'd say, we have that's world-class. So, for me, Thiago Silva, world-class, and 9.5 out of 10. Trevor Chalobah. Trevor, my little Gandrilla. Yes, he's a player that I always thought come in, done good jobs where we've asked him to play, like right back. He's played right back a couple of times this season. Sometimes he's played centre half. I don't think Trevor is the player going forward to be able to take us to the next level. I think he's a good squad player. His performances this year have been a bit under par. I think in previous years, I think he's given us stellar performances when he's been asked to come in. And I would have said a couple of years, the last 2 years, I'd say he's given us 7.5, 8 out of 10 performances. But this year, it's been under par for me. I think he's looked shaky. 6 out of 10 for me. Might need to be moved on with all these new signers coming in. And I'll put him in the below standards. I don't think he's the standard of Chelsea quality that we have to win the league with. But possibly a squad player. But for me, he's below standards. And yeah, that's Trevor. Moving on, we'll go to Ben Chile. Chile, funny enough, he's only played 9 games this year. In the 9 games that he was all right at the start of the season, he played well. I'll give him a standard 7 out of 10. He was all right. Got a goal and assist, I think, already this season. For Ben, I'll put him in the top class category. I think he's a top class player. I don't think he's average. For me, he's going to be one of our starting 11 players when we have everyone fit and available. And for me, Chile has always given us a good 7 solid out of 10 performances. So yeah, that's Chile for me. Moving on to Reece James. Reece James has played less games than Chile this year, funny enough, in the league. He's played 8 games. Reece this year, yeah, he's given us decent performances. I'd give him a 7.5 out of 10. I think he's the better fullback of the two this season in terms of the limited amount of games he's been able to play for us. But 7 out of 10 for me. But Reece James, obviously we all know, I think he's a world-class defender. Cancelo has just been moved on from Man City to go on loan at Bayern Munich, so he will be moved on. The Trent Alexander-Arnold kind of conversation has kind of simmered down now because Trent is not even favoured really too much in certain big games for Liverpool when they need to defend. I think Reece James gives us the all-round package as a Chelsea player, proper Chelsea. And yeah, I'm putting him in the world-class category. Previous years he's been 9 out of 10s, 8.5 out of 10s. But this season we haven't really seen him feature, so I'll give him a 7 out of 10. But yeah, he's in that world-class category for me. Koulibaly. Let's move on to Koulibaly. Koulibaly, for me, big, massive signing, was linked to us a couple of years ago. I think personally, he's been a 6 out of 10 to me. For me, he's been below the standard of what we thought he was going to be as a player. Average performances, hasn't sold me in terms of top quality and marshalling the defence as an experienced player. He's looked sometimes for me as an inexperienced player. And for me, yeah, I'll give him a 6 out of 10 this season so far for what he's played. And he goes into the average category for me. I don't think he's top class. I don't until he proves to me that he can do it here. I'm not considering him to be at that kind of level. Azpilicueta, Mr. Cesar Azpilicueta, our club captain. It's the end of the road now, though. Like, I think we was in such a problem with losing players in the defence that we had to keep him on for this season. Hopefully he finds another club next year because he deserves it. But for me, this season, he's given us a 6 out of 10 performances. When he's been playing, I've been begging for Reece James to be back. So for me, I give him a 6 out of 10. And I just think at now, going forward, I have to put him in the below standards category. I think in an attacking system, how we have to play going forward, what Reece James gives us, he can't compare with. And yeah, I'll put him in the 4. I'll put him in the 4th category, below standards. Cucurella, big massive signing, big transfer window from Brighton. Graham Potter's played with him. He knows how to utilise him at Brighton, but for me, he hasn't found that with him this year. I've got to give Cucurella a 6 out of 10. I don't think he's played well. He hasn't wowed me in anything going forwards or backwards, and for me, he has to be put into the 3 category average. He needs to be put in the average category for me. Yeah, not much to say on Cucurella. He needs to step up his game. Moving on, we'll go to Fofana. Fofana, for me, another massive signing, massive transfer fee. Injured. 2 games. We got 2 games out of him. Been injury prone. He's been available. He's been only available a third of his career since he's been playing. Loads of multiple injuries, and we seemingly signed a lot of people that end up having injuries. But yeah, Fofana, for me, in the 2 games I saw of him, weren't great for me. Didn't shine. 6 out of 10 I'll give him. And I think for now, I have to put him in the average category. Until he gives me the signs of what I can see at a top club as well, I have to put him in the average category. We'll move on to Jorginho. This season, 6 out of 10. He's been top class for Chelsea. I'll put him in that top class range. He got 3rd in the Ballon d'Or. That's a massive achievement for Jorginho with the previous years he's had. For me this year, I thought he was starting to down tool a bit. I think he wanted a move from Chelsea, and he's on the transfer window now. Even Arsenal are linked to Jorginho. Yeah, 6 out of 10 this year, I'd say. But for me, he's still a top class player. in the right system, dictating and getting the ball and sniffing out areas of the pitch where he needs to win the balls, he's quality at, and he knows how to dictate the pace of the game. So I'll put him in the top class category. Alongside him, a guy we've only seen for 2 games also this year, N'Golo Kante. What a player. The 2 games that he probably played in, I think he played in an early game against Tottenham. I think he featured in the season, but he's always been excellent for Chelsea. I'll give him an average 7 out of 10 in them 2 games that we see of him this season, but we all know that he's world class. He has to go in that world class category for me. And yeah, 7 out of 10 for N'Golo. He's been a massive servant for us. Hopefully we get to keep him on and he'd be a massive squad player for us. Obviously within our starting 11, but if he's not available and he needs rest, hopefully we can keep him on. And yeah, he's deserved it. Won 2 Premier League titles with Leicester and Chelsea. What a massive achievement. World class player. Not many players of his profile around. You got to be. He's a world class talent. Beside him, we've got another option, Kovacic, and Mateo Kovacic. Played 15 games this year. Another player who's been injured. He was injured last year. We forced to play him in the finals against Liverpool in the FA Cup, Carling Cup. Needed a rest. Arguably been injured again this season. Has only featured 15 games for us. But he's also another excellent player. I'd give him a 7 out of 10 alongside with N'Golo Kante. They're the 2 better of our midfielders. Him, George and Kante, they all give us something for our team in the midfield, and whenever we rotate around them, they've been all quality. But for me, Kovacic, he's in that top class category. You utilise him in the right system, the ball carrying ability that he has, the beating of the press. For me, he's a top class player. So yeah, top class for me. 7 out of 10 this year. Previous years he's been 8.5 out of 10. 8 for me. He's been quality Kova. He's been a good, massive servant. Loftus-Cheek, funny enough, Loftus-Cheek this season has played 14 games. For me, he's always been that nearly player. I think for this performances this year he's given us 6.5 out of 10. But for me, Loftus-Cheek, he's just been here for so long. If he was ever going to break through with a massive breakthrough in training and turning the corner of being a top class talent, he would have by now. And for me, it's just he's below standards. I'd put him in the below standards for me. I don't think he's Chelsea level. Every time we've seen him in the attacking third, for me, he's always had nosebleeds, not clinical in them areas. And he's not as good as what Kova gives us in terms of what we do in our ball carrying. Glimpses, but not massive. No real maturity through the time he's been here. No discipline, and not good going in the final third. So for me, he's in that below standards category. Let's go on to Money Mason Mount, Chelsea's #1 player. I think he's been one of the most important players that we've had over the past couple of years. Mason Mount for me has been excellent. But for me this year, 7.5 out of 10. He's been still our #1 goal scorer and creator in our team. Struggled this year with how we've been playing as a unit in whole. Some individual performances I think he could have been better in than this year than what he has been in previous years. So for me, I'll give Mount a 7.5 out of 10. I think he's in that top class category. He can potentially be in that world class category now that we have our new team assembled with all these signings that we've made. So hopefully Mason Mount can push on into that world class category. But for me now at the moment, he's still in that top class category. He needs to push on with this team now and show us what he's all about. Hopefully he gets to play in his right position. So for me, still top class and a 7.5 out of 10 for me, for Money Mace. Zakaria we got through on loan. For me, I didn't rate Zakaria when he first come in. I think for me he's below standards. I'll put him in the below standards category. Zakaria he's given us one good. See, the one good performance he's given us is against Man City, so I have to put him at a 6.5 out of 10 for the amount of games he's played this year. He's overachieved more than what I'd thought he would give us. I didn't think he was going to give us anything at all. I thought he was going to be very similar to how Saul Niguez was when he first came in. And yeah, but I'll give him a 6.5 out of 10 and he goes into that below standards category for me. Conor Gallagher. I call Conor Gallagher fish and chips. I think he is a B-Tech version of what Money Mace is. For me, he's been so poor this season. From the performances of what he gave Palace in that kind of advanced 8-10 role, he's been a 5.5 out of 10 for me for Chelsea. He's had a red card. He just runs. For me, he just runs. It's a headless run-in. It's not a smart kind of run-in. And yeah, for me, he's in the shocking. I think he's one of the few players that could be in the shocking category. And yeah, for me, we need to sell him. He's been linked for 35, 40 million pound. I will pay for that Uber cab driver to take him for 35, 40 million pound. So yeah, for me, yeah, not good enough. He's got to be in the shocking category for me for what I've seen of him at Chelsea, and a 5.5 out of 10. Chukwuemeka, I think he's been very good in the performances that I've seen him this season. I think he's come in and performed well. He looks like a talent that could possibly kick on and be a top class talent in that midfield. I don't know whether he's going to be able to do it at Chelsea, but hopefully he gets to stay here and be able to play a lot more games than what he has. If not, we have to sell him on or give him a loan deal for now. But for me, he's been a solid 7 out of 10 performance since he's been in. I can't moan about his desire. He shows some good desire to play for Chelsea. But at the moment, I'll keep him in that average category. And yeah, hopefully he gets a loan move that he can perform and show his true talents out somewhere else. But at least he's been brought in as a Chelsea player and he's ours to have. So yeah, hopefully he kicks on. Let's go on into the forwards. Let's go to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Oba, he for me has been a 5.5 out of 10 again this season. For me, I think he's been pretty poor. I don't think he gives us the offer in running. I don't think he's fast. He's lost his legs. Finishing, the thing is his finishing hasn't really been asked of because he can't get into the position. So I don't know whether his finishing has fell off because he just don't get into these positions. But for me, he's been a 5.5 out of 10, and he's been shocking for me for Chelsea this year. I think he needs to be moved on, get what we can for him, or just release him from the club, because I think we need to sign better players and we've got better options at the moment to be able to play up front than Aubameyang. So yeah, for me, 5.5 out of 10, and he's in the shocking category. Christian Pulisic. Pulisic, for me, previous years, he was our number one player, our number one outlet. He was our saviour. After Hazard left, Pulisic came in and was saving us multiple games after multiple games. But for me this year, and since his injury, he's been a 6 out of 10. His performances have been pretty poor. He's not to the same standard. He doesn't take on his players. He doesn't have the pace to beat people in behind. And for me, he's been a 6 out of 10 this year. And I think he needs to be in... I'm putting him in the below standards category for now, because for me, he's not the player he used to be. For me, he was in that top class category, could have potentially been world class. But with the injuries, he's just below standards. And I think we've got better options coming in with our signings again to replace him. So for me, I'll put him in the below standards category and possibly need to sell him. I don't know if Todd will, because he's American and he's the American sponsor for us basically out in America. So yeah, I don't know what Todd's going to do with him, but for me, he should be sold and moved on. João Felix. Let's move on to João Felix, one of our loanees this season. I think he's going to be pivotal for us in the running of the season. I'll give him a 7 out of 10 for his performance against Fulham, even though it was short-lived after he gave away a red card. But for me, he's what I didn't think he had, that injection of pace in him when I saw him against Fulham. I think he can really be a creative spark in the front line, whether it's off the left, off the right, or down the middle. I think João Felix is going to be great. I would personally put him in the number 9 role. I think the signings that we've got out wide are better going to be more direct, and I think João can drop into that number 9 Firmino kind of role, create and also be able to score goals. So for me, João Felix, he's in that top class category. Potentially, he's always been in that shout for that world class if he gets the right move. But at the moment, I'll put him in that top class category, and I'll give him 7 out of 10 for his debut. Considering that he got a red card, 7 out of 10 is very, very nice. But yeah, hopefully he's going to kick on, and he can potentially push it up to 8.5 out of 10 for me easily throughout the end of this half of the season, and give us the chance to push Newcastle or United for top 4, and in the Champions League, like the Champions League run. I think the players that we've brought in, he's one of them that could help us potentially get a late run into that Champions League, semi-finals, quarter-finals. We have a chance. Let's go on to Mudryk, and one of our massive signings, £100 million hijacked off Arsenal. I think his performance against Liverpool, his cameo was great. He instantly showed that spark. For me, he's a 8 out of 10 kind of player. That performance alone shows me that he's going to be a consistent performer at Chelsea. and he has got the potential to be world class. I think already, from my eyes, obviously one game's not enough always to judge a player, but for me, he's a top class talent, and I think he potentially could be world class in the future. He just has that aura about him, and the speed and the injection of pace and the close control feet, ability to navigate in and out of players, as we saw in that Liverpool game with one of his chances. Hopefully he can polish up his finishing, but for me, he's an 8 out of 10, and he's in that top class category for me. Raheem Sterling, we played him up front basically alongside Havertz in a central role at the start of the season, and he was popping in with a few goals here and there. But now we're moving forward in a 4-3-3 kind of system, and he's got to play out wide. I think he might be going to play out wide right, considering that we've got João Felix in, and I think Mudryk. So Mudryk would be on the left. João Felix might have to rotate with him on the left, or possibly go up front, like I said. But Sterling will be out on the right hand side. For me, he's been a 7 out of 10, possibly 7.5 earlier stages of the season. I think his performances have started to slowly drop off a bit recently, and I think he just needs to get back fresh, come back into the squad, and start taking on his players and getting them behind. And now that we've got that change in system, and hopefully when we get everyone fit and available, he'll play off the right hand side and give us a lot of what we need in the later stages of the season. So for me, Raheem previously has been world class, I think, in the Premier League, but for me now, I've got to put him in that top class category. And yeah, he's been a 7 out of 10 for me this season. Hakim Ziyech, I've ripped into him a lot of times this season and previous year and the previous year. He's in the shocking category for me. I just think for the hype that he had around him, he still doesn't take on players. He has that one cut inside and one whip ball out to the far post, and most of the time it's overhit. And for me, he's been poor. I'm giving him a 5 out of 5. He's in that kind of Conor Gallagher performances and Aubameyang kind of performances type of category. And yeah, 5.5 out of 10 for me, and he should be in the shocking and sold on. He's been also linked for £20 million to West Ham recently, so hopefully we can move him on with the signs we've got now. The replacements look much more better than him. So yeah, Ziyech for me, shocking category, and 5.5 out of 10. We'll sum it up with the last two players. We've got Armando Broja. Funny enough, he's played 12 games this season. Not all starts, obviously, but had a half-decent loan spell last year on at Southampton. It didn't light up for me. I think he's not the standards for me of a Chelsea player. I'll put him in the below standards category because I don't think he's good enough for Chelsea, but I think he might be able to do something for a mid-table club at Chelsea in the Premier League, and be able to put up a half-decent amount of numbers. But yeah, that's if he's got the right service and the right kind of players behind him. But I don't think he's at Chelsea level, and I think he's just below standards for me. I'll give him a 6 out of 10. And finally, we have Kai Havertz. King Kai, Champions League winning goal scorer, Kai Havertz. He's been playing up front this season. He's got 5 in 19 this year in the league. It's not enough. I think he's given us a 7 out of 10 performance so far this season. Like, he's got great touches, he's got great awareness, he's great understanding, but for me, he's just not a number 9, and he's not quick enough to play out wide. So I'm not sure where we're going to have to utilise Kai Havertz. So for me, it's a weird one. Mason Mount, it plays in the 10, but can Havertz play in there? We'd have to see. Maybe a change of formation and have Havertz playing off of another striker like a João Felix or someone like that. Maybe them two up front might be able to work in that 4-2-2 kind of way system. But yeah, 7 out of 10 for me. But he is a top class talent. I think he's still got many years in him, and if you use Kai Havertz wisely, I think he's a top class talent. So for me, I'm putting him in that top class. And that is my list. That is my list of players. That is the categories, as you can see. That's how I have the players and how they perform for Chelsea this season. So maybe you might disagree, maybe you might agree. Comment down below, please, in the comment section, and let me know what you think. This is my list, and if you wanna just subscribe, like, comment, do all of those things, and yeah, I appreciate it. But that's my list of ranking the Chelsea players this season, and I'll see you soon.